Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 7 of the Alfa Romeo GTA Championship. We are back here at Goodwood, this time in the 156 GTAs, so these should be some excellent fun to watch navigate the historic circuit as we see just a little bit of a tap to the wall from John Baker as he heads through the chicane, getting ready for another lap by the looks of things. We've got just under 15 minutes to go in this qualifying session now, and it is currently against what the timing system says in the game. It is Colin Knief who sits on pole with a 13.3. Absolutely flying there was Colin Knief, and in fact that's about a second clear of everyone else on track at the moment. P2 runner-up, that is John Cole, who we're on board with at the moment. He is on with a 1:14.371, so also quite a nice gap to the top time. There's a bit more of a tighter battle going on between the likes of Whitehead and Giulia, but that's only a few hundredths of a second separating those two. We'll go on board with Willie Bliss here as we see him on quite a nice lap by the looks of things. He's currently P5 in the running and has just made a couple of tenths through sector 3 there. That promotes him to, well, doesn't promote him anyway, he stays P5, not on the time system at the moment, but I can tell you he is P5 in this session at the moment. So then, all settled in, ready to go for another qualifying session here at Goodwood. Off the top of my head, I believe we only have one more car to go around at Goodwood, and that will be the 147 GTA in a few weeks' time. And that's a shame, actually, because I've really enjoyed some of the racing that Goodwood has provided this year. As we see, it is Andrew Whitehead who goes P5, although that is according to the time system, that is P4. We're doing on board with George Battersby as he looks to be on for quite a nice lap at the moment. Goes personal best in sector 1 at 28.7 here. He is looking to beat a 1:14.865. He's currently on his 5th lap attempt, so he's got plenty of running already in this session, so he should be well in the groove, feeling quite happy with the car at the moment. He was providing some setup tweaks for a couple of other drivers in the disco before, which you just see. He looks like he is feeling fairly confident this weekend as he heads through chicane now toward the end of his lap. He didn't improve in sector 2, but he's about to come across the line in a moment's time. Just a few more seconds ago now, and we'll see if he can promote himself up higher than the P5 he's running. He was there, he did rather, and that was sector 1, really made the difference for him there. I believe sector 2 and sector 3 were pretty hooked up on a previous lap attempt, but sector 1 really made the difference. He's now gone second fastest with a 1:14.242. Still about a second off Colin Knief then, but that gap is shrinking lap by lap. We've still got over 12 minutes of running in the session going as well, so certainly not completely comfortable for Colin Knief. We haven't seen the likes of Matt Daly join the session yet, and George Battersby is on an absolute flyer at the moment, goes purple in sector 1. I found another 10th heading through the Madrid corner, heading up to Ford Water as well, where there's not too much time to be made really, so a second is quite a nice difference this early on in the lap. Let's see if he can carry that momentum forward. Will he have overworked those sides a little bit too much? He has gone yellow in sector 2 at 20.36. Still up there with the best though. Colin Knief could only offer a 20.7 on his previous lap attempt, so he's still certainly in the mix as he heads down through Woodcut into chicane for the final time on this lap, back onto the throttle now. He's only got a few seconds to go until he finds out whether or not this has made a difference. Can he push himself towards pole on this lap? He does not. It gets ever closer once again, only 6 tenths of a second. It is on pole according to the time system in game, but he is still a few tenths off Colin Knief, but he's making some very nice progress at only about the halfway stage in the qualifying session. He could be on for quite a nice result here if he plays his cards right. That will have worried Colin Knief. Still got quite a nice margin, but he's seen that time dropping lap by lap elsewhere in the session, and that midfield battle really is starting to build up. And I tell you what, Colin Knief has certainly responded to the challenge by George Battersby. 28.5 through sector 1 there, blitzing George Battersby's personal best. These times really starting to drop down now. Everyone obviously on the soft tyre in this qualifying session. The softs on this car do work wonders as we head through to sector 3 now. Sector 2 once again not electric and not quite as close as George Battersby's best. As where he seems to be losing time is Colin Knief. Maybe that is just a set of difference, maybe that's the driver style difference. Riding through chicane onto the grass there, that may have invalidated his lap if all 4 wheels were off the track, and it has. What a shame for Colin Knief entering the pits, obviously abandoning that lap attempt then. Just didn't quite come together when it really mattered. at this point in time. Still just under 10 minutes to go, so plenty of time to get another couple of decent laps in. And John Cole is on for a nice bit of improvement as well, at 28.8 through sector 1. This time of asking, only has a little bit of traffic behind him, is otherwise looking quite comfortable in terms of track position, in terms of traffic ahead, so he could be getting ready for quite a nice lap here if he places his car right at 20.2 through sector 2, so it really is where Collins will be losing his time, is that middle sector. Is he sacrificing that on purpose to try and score it back through the final sector? Let's find out if that really does matter, as we see John Cole heading through the final corner onto the start-finish line. He goes achingly close to George, but passes the personal best there, a note of 14.005 there, a few thousandths off the 13th, the all-important 13th for John Cole then in this session. So really we're starting to see some good progression on top of the field. We're starting to see some good progression further down as well. The midfield battle between Andrew Whitehead and Andrew Brammer still ongoing. The personal best only about a few hundredths of a second between each other. Further down than that as well, we have Mike Hilton, Guy Swarbrick also battling it out. Guy Swarbrick currently the fastest AM runner at the moment, a few tenths clear of Steve Knight behind. Who else is on for a nice bit of improvement? Andrew Whitehead goes best, or personal best rather, in sector 1 at 28.7 there. He's looking to beat a 114.8 in this rear drive Alfa 156 GTA. Heavily revised version of the road going car, obviously, but still looks just as good. Quite there for him in the middle sector. He's put 8 lap attempts in. In fact, Collins put 10 lap attempts in, so Collins is really trying his damnedest to make sure that pole stays with him as we go into the chicane section now. It's all about carrying as much momentum as you dare early that final corner, because it makes all the difference back onto the start of the straight. But watch out, it's a little bit too wide, he's going to end up plastering a wall, and Andrew Whitehead makes a very nice improvement. Good that chicane, absolutely perfect, improves in sector 3 and goes fourth fastest at 114.4. For some reason the timing system in game really doesn't seem to like Collins at the moment in this session. Has him down in P10, but he is still on top with that 113.3, and in fact he's looking to go even faster. We're going board with him now as he heads through sector 2 now. Sector 1 was another purple, improving by a few hundredths of a second on his previous best, which was also a purple. Finding another 4 tenths through sector 2. So that sector 2, which I said he was struggling in, he's absolutely nailed this time around. 20 flat through sector 2. I started to sound a bit scouse there, I was like excited, apologies. And now we just have sector 3 to navigate, heading through Woodcut into the chicane and back onto the loud pedal for what should be a fairly electric lap as we come across the line with Colin Knief. Will it break into the 112s? He does not, just about missing the 112, the 113.1, so maybe the tyres getting a little bit too overworked heading through sector 2 that time, and he didn't quite have the pace to match his previous best, but still a 13.1 is a very impressive lap indeed. That puts him about 8 tenths of a second ahead of George Buckbacksby in P2, and that surely means that George has his work cut out for him now with just over 5 minutes to go in this session. Colin is carrying on though, he's carrying on in this little mini quali stint. Does he have it in the tyres? Does he have it in the car? No, it doesn't look like he does. I think he's actually coming in on a bit of an in-lap. He chose to abandon it this time around, 32 through the first sector. Alan Matthews, we haven't seen too much from in this session. He's looking to be on for some decent improvement here. Personal best in sector 1 and sector 2 coming across the line now. He goes 4th fastest, hitting Andrew Whitehead to the post. So this battle that Andrew Whitehead was enjoying with Andrew Brammer, he now seems to be enjoying with Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews made some very nice progression on that previous lap. 5 minutes to go, let's see what he can do as well. He does have a bit of traffic up in front of him in the form of John Baker, by the look of things, and there is Andrew Whitehead in front as well. As you see the flames on the overrun coming into the corner, and there is that traffic coming into play now as we head through St Mary's. They make contact. Both being spit off into the fields there. The fields of Wheat like your Theresa May back onto the track just before the little bank corner. And that is a bit of a traffic for them in this qualifying session. But with 5 minutes to go, they should be able to get a few more attempts in, that is for sure. We'll go on board with Rosie Hodson. Rosie Hodson making some nice improvements here into the 29s through sector 1 this time round. Only has the Woodcut corner to navigate. Runs a little bit wide on the exit, trying to carry as much speed as possible into the chicane. Let's see if this lap is invalidated. Guy Swarbrick actually goes purple in sector 3, so he may be one to watch out for at this point in qualifying, as Rosie has to abandon that lap. Heading through sector 1 then now with Guy Swarbrick coming up to Ford Water. and he's looking fairly competitive, as I've mentioned, at 15.6. We've seen some nice progression from Guy in the past few rounds in the Touring Car Series, and let's see what he does now through Sector 1. The car looking fairly racy, they're bouncing around on the bump stops. It is a personal best through Sector 1 at 28.9. As we head up towards the Levant corner, the right hand of the 40 back straight. Sector 2, quite a short sector on this circuit. It is quite a short lap after all. And we're coming towards the end of it now. Just a brief moment of time, the anticipation is absolutely going about 148 miles an hour through the speed trap. Guy Strawberry at the moment coming up to beat his personal best in Sector 2. But let's see what he can do as he heads now through the Woodcock corner and onto the chicane, into the chicane rather. Flames on the overrun once again, judged absolutely perfectly on the exit. A little bit of a dip onto the grass, back onto the throttle, and it is going to be an improvement for Guy Strawberry there. He goes 8th fastest still at 15.1, so a few tenths shaved off there, but I want to go on board with John Coles. He comes across the line to go 3rd fastest, taking the purple in Sector 2, another 20 flat for John Cole in Sector 2, and personal best in Sector 1 as well. So those Sector 2 times really starting to drop down as he once again is ever so close to the 113s. As we see, Guy Strawberry is back on track now for what will be, I imagine, the final couple of tenths in this qualifying session. Loses out fairly substantially in Sector 1. Is that as a result of some traffic? I think it may have been. Although he is absolutely flying through the speed traps, 150 miles an hour. The only driver to hit that speed through the speed traps then is Colin Keefe, coming up to the chicane now, I imagine, to get another attempt in on this lap. A more representative attempt as we go back on board with John Cole, a personal best through Sector 1. Once again, that gap only a few hundredths of a second to the car in front. This will mean quite a lot if he can get himself onto the front row, even if he doesn't get onto pole. The front row will make a big difference at this circuit. Heading into Sector 3 and didn't quite get that purple sector he was after in Sector 2 once again, getting ever so close to the wall, just came back onto the throttle. It was still a 20 flat, so still a very competitive Sector 2 though. Has come across the line. Does he improve? No, he doesn't this time. I know he does improve. He does improve. Beats John Cole there, only 5 tenths of a second away from Colin Keefe this time round. He's only got a couple more minutes if he wants to try and break down that half a second gap, but by a couple of tenths he managed to take P2 away from George Buck-Battersby and is now sitting on the front row for race 1 coming up in just a few moments' time. As we look at some of the gaps between the midfield there, they are just oh so close, down from P4 to P6, only a couple of tenths separating them. Likewise, further down in the order between Paul Millman and Steve Knight, very close indeed. John Baker currently running P9 there. I believe he is on for an improvement. It looks like he is. We'll join him in just a second there. We'll stay with Willinglis for the moment as he is heading through for another fast lap, which will be one of the last ones in this session then, as it looks like all of the leaders have really got everything they can out of this circuit, out of their talent, and aren't quite able to push for a higher time or a lower time at the moment. Rather, as you see, that looks to be Steve Knight there. I believe that was Steve Knight just getting a little bit wrong, running onto the infield for a brief moment. We'll go on board with Mike Hilton, and Mike Hilton improving at this point in the session as well. Only has a couple of tenths to make up to the car in front. But can he do it with just a minute remaining? A minute remaining in this session then, and it's looking relatively comfortable for Colin Keefe at the moment. He cropped up with an absolutely blistering 113.3 about 10 minutes ago, and has improved on that even more, 13.1, and he is sitting relatively comfortably on pole here. John Cole taking the second position away from George Buck-Battersby just in the past couple of minutes. I didn't think that time was good. I didn't think, to be honest, any of the times, top 3, top 4 times are looking beatable, but I've been proven wrong multiple times before. I've been proven wrong here once again. Unless we're going to go on board with Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews making some nice progression through Sector 1, then 28.8 and back onto the throttle. Actually, his best lap set on the medium tyres, and a couple of people actually switching to medium tyres now. Andrew Whitehead also running the medium tyres, so maybe we're starting to see those medium tyres reward the drivers a little bit either further into their qualifying stints when they're a little bit more of a grip, or further into the lap through Sector 3 towards the end of Sector 2 perhaps, when you've got quite a few high energy braking zones and really need to bring the car out time as they wave the checkered flag on this qualifying session then, and the lead is in the pit, and Alan Matthews getting it just a little bit wrong on the exit there. Can he still improve? Will this lap be invalidated? I don't think he's going to be able to. Losing too much time there, he stays P4. So it is, for the moment then, Colin Knief sits on pole for round 7 of the Alfa Romeo GTA Championship. Race 1 coming up in just a few moments' time here at Goodwood. John Cole P2, George Brooks Battersby P3 after a very intense battle to see these two try and chip away at Colin Knief's time. It looks to be that it's going to be Colin Knief who remains on pole, although my time system was incorrect. John Cole, or no, George Brooks Battersby rather, is actually on for a fast lap here. Goes personal best in Sector 2 at 20.1, not quite there with those two front runners, but will Sector 3 make all the difference? Back onto the throttle, plays a quite safe returns into the pits as well. So it will be Colin Knief and John Cole lining up on the front row. I will catch you in just a few moments' time as we get ready for race 1 coming up in just a second.
6 red lights from the gantry. And we are away as the revs were rising. The drivers get ready to launch. We just about make it in time for the getaway. Then it's looking like absolute chaos as we head down to turn 1. Drivers trying to find a little bit of tarmac to get past there, as we see just kind of explosion of cars going about 6 wide on it as we head into the Madrid corner. A little bit of contact, a little bit of rubbing is racing between a couple of the cars between Colin Keneath and Alan Matthews there. As it is Colin Keneath who currently takes off in the lead at the moment with the soft compound tyre, as we see Jack Hodson looking for a way past Rosie Hodson. Apologies there, looking for a way past John Baker as Alan Matthews battling out with John Cole higher up the order as well. Colin Keneath had a little bit more breathing space, but not too much, only about 0.4 of a second there, and the pack staying oh so close as we head round the first lap in this race. George Brook certainly under pressure from Andrew Whitehead behind there, and also Will Inglis for good measure. As we see it calming down just a little bit more now. Colin Keneath still flying about then on those soft compound tyres. We have a bit of a mixture going on in this race. Alan Matthews on the mediums, as is Andrew Whitehead and John Baker, so we might see them struggling in this initial phase of the race. When you've got 40 litres of fuel on board, that's about how much you need to get around this circuit for 25 minutes in a 156 GTA. As we see them maybe struggling a little bit more on the medium side, but they might come into their own later on in the race as George Brook gets the move done on Paul Millman. Paul Millman making some very nice progress on the start at the start of this race then, and we have him dropping back down, but I think I thought he had a collision there. Somehow avoided it. Andrew Whitehead running a little bit wide there, able to get the car back on track without losing control, so that is good to see. No major incidents there, but lost out quite a few positions actually. Went from about P6 down to P10 there, so we can do that. Relatively a little bit further down, running the whole pack will be separated by about 10 seconds, so good going so far. No major incidents to report on the first lap as Andrew Brammer in, as I mentioned, so in the series, making some very nice progress up into P6 as it looks like John Baker and Rosie Hodson have a bit of a together. I can't quite see Andrew Whitehead and Guy Swarbrick certainly have. Guy Swarbrick looking a little bit further down the order as we see that field spreading out just a little bit more now. Mike Hilton losing it out by the looks of things. Is Guy Swarbrick losing out in terms of pace there? So not quite sure what's going on with his car. Maybe it's a little bit of a knock to the confidence levels as a result of that incident. But Colin Keneath, meanwhile, up in front is starting to break away, looking relatively composed out in the lead. That gap now standing about 1.5 seconds there. Meanwhile, John Cole and Anne Matthews behind, posting fairly competitive, fairly similar lap times. Really, in fact, I think they're fairly competitive lap times. Colin Keneath pretty much on the level of some people's qualifying attempts already at this stage in the race with a full lap of fuel on board. Obviously, 40 litres in this race is trying to fuel a 2-litre engine that produces 270 horsepower. Very nice amount of power for this Brooklyn circuit. It's just enough to get some good progress down these straights, but isn't too much for the chassis to deal with. The chassis obviously quite impressive things, but I'll tell you what won't be looking quite impressive after this race will be Paul Millman's chassis. It looks as if he's had a fairly substantial impact according to the system there, about 85 miles an hour according to the G meters on board. But I'm sure he's okay after that one, but does drop down quite far down the order. I don't know if we might see a retirement from the race as a result of that. That is a shame to see what was looking to be shaping up to quite a good race for him. Otherwise, as we see Alan Matthews bounding over the curves there through Woodcote as we watch John Cole head through the chicane for another lap of Goodwood. Of course, John Cole, our current championship leader at the moment, so this race means a lot. He really needs to try and keep Colin Keneath in his sights there, although that seems to be quite an undertaking. Certainly easier said than done. Colin Keneath, this is exactly the type of race that he wants to perform in, wants to try and close that gap up to John Cole, the championship leader at the moment then. As we go on board with Mike Hilton looking to be under pressure from Andrew Whitehead in terms of previous lap time there. It looks to be that Mike Hilton has the upper hand, that is for certain. Andrew Whitehead, I don't think he's got much of a clean lap in yet, running those medium tyres as well. So will be quite a disadvantage at this stage in the race. You can see the brake disc glowing red hot, but that will be disadvantaging Mike Hilton as he heads through St Mary's there, dropping off the tarmac onto the green stuff, and as a result Andrew Whitehead gets the position on him up into P7 for Andrew Whitehead. Is Mike Hilton suffering from some car issues there, maybe some rig issues as well? Seems to be the case as we go on board with John Cole. John Cole absolutely flying
on this lap, then maybe he's turned up the heat. He's pushing on this lap and is now within 7/10 of a second of Colin Knief. And as I mentioned, this is exactly what he needs to do if he wants to put that pressure on Colin Knief. Wants to say to Colin that, watch out, sunshine, this is certainly not your championship for the taking. It is mine to defend. And of course, we're at the halfway point already. So here is really where the race starts, and here is really when the championship can be decided if a few weekends go well for certain drivers. Can you believe it? Already 7 rounds in, as it looks to be that John Cole is getting ready to set up a move on Colin Knief as we head through St Mary's now, where we've seen so many drivers get it wrong, where it can be very difficult to get a clean overtake. We're going to head up to Levant now. And I think Colin's still got him boxed off, but for how long? Certainly putting that pressure on now. About half a second between the two cars as we head down the back straight, where all that matters is how much of a toe have you got and how much power can you put down as early as possible out of that right-hander. And it looks to be that John Cole has ticked both of those boxes, is gaining on Colin Knief now. Is he going to think about a move? Under braking round the outside potentially. I think he's going to set himself up for it. He's a little bit too far back though. Positioned his car quite nicely though. Positioning his car to show he's going for a bit of an aggressive drive as we head into the chicane now, dropping back just a little bit back onto the throttle. Colin Knief getting a little bit upset, riding over the grass, but is still on top as we start another lap round the Goodwood circuit. John Cole posting a 13.6, that's matching some of his qualifying attempt, so absolutely flying is John Cole at the moment, going purple in sector 1 as well. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking a bit of a cold at the moment, so I'm hoping that doesn't get become too much of an obstacle rather later on in this race. We seem to be alright at the moment though, as we head through, and these two are absolutely pushing themselves to new limits. About 4 seconds clear of the rest of the field already as we get ready to head through St Mary's once again. Just a little bit further back now this time around is John Cole, so he's maybe overworked the tyres a little bit too much, just trying to preserve them for a push later on in the race. Both of these drivers on the soft compound of tyre, so he's not quite as comfortable as he could be if he was on the medium compound tyres. John has to preserve his tyres just as much as Colin Knief is. Of course, Colin could be preserving. We don't quite know what is going on in Colin Knief's head. Well, I imagine, I've got a vague idea, it's going bloody fast as you head through the English countryside, heading around the chicane now and back onto the throttle. And Colin Knief unfortunately went a bit too fast on the exit of the chicane, riding over the grass, and that has brought John Cole right back into contention. Alan Matthews isn't too far away, about 4 seconds though, is just in the background there. John Cole is now only about 3/10 behind as we head through the Madrid corner back onto the throttle before Ford Water, which isn't too much of a corner in these cars. I imagine it's a little bit more than the likes of the Giulia GTAm, but about quarter of a second now as we head into St Mary's in just a moment's time there. Oh so close as we see flames on the overrun from Colin Knief's car as he jumps off the throttle, setting himself up for the right-left switch complex. And it looks like John Cole's got the upper hand on the exit of the corner. He's going to go round the outside, potentially nose a little bit too far back. I don't think it's too far back either. I think it's just so difficult to get an overtake on this narrow circuit, and with such a good driver up in front. Obviously, Colin Knief certainly knows how to put up a defence. As we head down towards Woodcote in a moment's time. They are side by side as they head down the Levant straight, which isn't that much of a straight. John Cole edges out in front. He's got the better line by the looks of things, or has he? Is Colin Knief going to be able to hang around the outside? No, he isn't. John Cole now on the defensive then as we head into the chicane. Colin Knief right on his rear bumper, back onto the throttle for both of them. Colin Knief dipping onto the grass once again. It seems to be a bit of a Colin Knief favourite there, that patch of grass. I imagine the groundskeepers won't be too pleased with that one, but it has worked for John Cole. About half a second now, and it is John Cole in control of this race. Exactly what he needed to do if he wants to keep this championship fight alive. But for how long can he keep this up? How long can he keep this defensive drive going? He has his work cut out for him. Colin Knief in your rearview mirror is certainly a threatening sight, as we have that gap now built up to about a second, and we're not even halfway in this race yet. So he certainly has his work cut out for him. Further down the order then, Willinglis still behind Andrew Brammer at the moment. That gap at about 1 second, so he's certainly putting that push on, certainly putting that charge on both drivers on the soft compound tyre as well. We go through one of the few medium runners there. It is Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews is looking to be in a fairly good position at the moment, I would say, as we see the two leaders up in front there. He's got George Brook about a second and a half behind. but we may start to see in a few minutes time a switch over between the soft compound tyre and the medium compound tyre, although if my memory serves me correctly in the previous races at Goodwood that really didn't start to make too much of an effect towards the very late stages in the race, so Alan Matthews may have to keep George Battersby behind for just a little bit longer yet, as Andrew Brammer and Will Bliss are now trading places, heading down towards sector 3 and through Woodville into the chicane. Now it is Andrew Brammer who has managed to take the position back, but for how long? Because Will Bliss is looking fairly racy, that is for certain. About a couple of tenths faster is his personal best lap time, and is only a couple of tenths behind in terms of previous lap time, but I imagine that'll be a pretty much even Stevens now as we start another lap. It certainly isn't. No, it certainly is, rather, only a couple of tenths a second. Both drivers slowing each other down in the middle of this battle then, as we see, speaking of slow down, Colin Keith now dropping to a huge chasmous gap. Chasmous, I think I've just invented a new word there, of about a second, which isn't too much of a gap at all. That's just the biggest gap we've seen between those two drivers at this stage in the race. Not quite as responsive as some of the others that we've seen in this race. He looked at a move off the inside there, I think, and found that door open. That's a little bit too much for his liking, I am sure, and that spurred Williams on, but he wasn't able to get that move done. Being defended by Andrew Brammer in the end there, as we see Steve Knight on for a bit of a flyer at the moment, going on for a personal best lap as it looks to be. His previous personal best of 1:17.5 on the soft compound tyres that he's running. I think he's been preserving a little bit on the past couple of laps and getting ready for another charge. He's only got a couple of seconds up the road before he hits Michael Hilton. But Guy Swarbrick is currently our race leader, looking very comfortable indeed, about half a second behind John Baker. John Baker recently promoted up into the pro rankings as they head through chicane. Looks like Guy Swarbrick's trying to find a way past, goes to the inside there, isn't quite able to get it done. I think he made a bit too much of an aggressive cutback there, and John Baker was able to defend it. But as we head through turn 1, he's putting the pressure on, that is for sure, leading that AM race up in the moment, up in P9 at the moment then, by about a few seconds as well. So doing quite a nice job. And speaking of doing quite a nice job controlling this race at the moment, it looks to be John Cole. John Cole has settled in at this stage, I would say, about 2.5 seconds clear. He is starting to run away now. Got some nice pace underneath him. Isn't having to worry too much about a battle, isn't having to worry about defending too much, but has just forced a little bit of an error on himself as he heads into the chicane there. Luckily didn't upset the car too much riding over those curves. Didn't the undertrace too much good, but is able to carry on. Lost about 7 tenths of a second though. That gap is shrinking and all that then. Too many mistakes like that and he will start to suffer in the later stages of this race. We're only just about coming on to the halfway point in this race, and maybe now we're starting to see a response from Colin Keith, going purple in sector 3 at 24.8 on that previous lap, then only a few tenths off his best lap. So that gap shrinking on that previous lap. Let's see what it can do further into this race. The gap between George Battersby and Alan Matthews, I think, has closed up just a little bit more now, only at about 8 tenths of a second, as we start to head through to the Levant straight in just a moment's time. Still at about 8 tenths of a second, but it's going to shrink as a result of that. George Battersby running wide through St Mary's and dropping down to P4 as a result. That's exactly what Matthews wanted. Now he's running those medium tyres and has the position on his main rival in this race, and this should bode well for him as he heads through to the halfway stage in this race. The gap between the two leaders then shrinking now at about 1.3 seconds. Maybe we're starting to see John Cole struggling through that final sector. Meanwhile, Colin Keith is making up all his ground there. The gap between the two drivers about half a second delta between the two drivers into Colin Keith's favour there. So sector 3 seems to be where all the difference is being made. And we could see a couple more laps. We could be on for another battle between the two leads. Really good to see. As another battle brewing further down the order is between Mike Hilton and Steve Knight as we head into the Levant corner in a moment's time. Steve Knight bouncing over the curbs there, able to keep the car on the circuit though, so wasn't too unsettled with that. Woodcut, apologies, they're getting very close to the exit of the left-hand corner on the chicane. There is still out in front by a few tenths of a second. I imagine Mike Hilton playing it a little bit more safe than Steve was through the chicane that time round. as I'm sure that was looking fairly scary for both drivers. Riding over the curbs and is Steve Knight. Steve Knight really trying to push himself as much as he can, push the track limits as much as possible, trying to keep Mike Hilton behind. But for how long can he do that? As we head into sector 2 in just a moment's time, really putting on a defensive drive now, defending as much as he can, heading into the St Mary's complex, riding over the curbs once again. There's a little bit of rallycross going on here between the two drivers, and is that why? Is the front end starting to limit Steve Knight just a little bit now as he rides through St Mary's, has to dip onto the grass and has conceded the position to Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton up into P10 then. What a shame. What could have been in that battle when it came to a bit of a premature end, I feel there. But what isn't coming to a premature end is the battle between Colin Keneath and John Cole, because it hasn't really started yet. It's brewing, it's certainly getting there, as a little bit of a twitch through the corner for Colin Keneath's car as he heads into St Mary's. It looks like he's really trying to push that car as much as possible, heading through the Levant corner once again. Willie Gliss and Andrew Rammett trading places once again. I think that was through St Mary's. No, it's a little bit further back than that. And all of a sudden, Andrew Whitehead is in the mix now. So Andrew Whitehead, who has some very good pace in these touring cars, that is for certain, is certainly getting, I imagine, ready for a bit of a battle. But I apologise to you there, Andrew. It's commentator's curse. You ran over the grass there. That was entirely my fault. That one. As we go back on board with Colin Keneath. Colin Keneath now near enough within a second there. That won't help matters though, riding over the grass, heading on the exit of the chicane back onto another lap. Still at about 1.1 seconds though, pretty much matching each other neck and neck in terms of pace on that previous lap then. And this is brewing to be quite a nice battle going on between the two drivers. I imagine this might go on to the very bitter end. We've only got just under 10 minutes to go in this race already. And he's keeping him honest, is Colin Keneath. He's keeping John Cole honest, but he just needs to make that little further push if he wants to try and get that P1 back. Maybe he can force an error as well. Who knows? A late race error is certainly not off the cards as he gets oh so close to the exit of the tarmac there up through St Mary's. We know Colin Keneath has some blistering lap times around this circuit. Has he overworked his tyres? Has he preserved his tyres? If he's preserved his tyres, he could be getting ready to set up quite a nice push towards the end of the race and maybe take it to those 113 with John Cole. Just about a second, it's finally dipped under 1 second now. It looks like Colin Keneath once again had a little bit of a better time through sector 3, now standing at about 8/10 of a second, and it really was once again sector 3 that made all the difference. The electric times that we saw earlier on have dropped off just that little bit now, but he's still keeping John Cole honest. Speaking of keeping honest, it is the battle between Andrew Rammett and Will Gliss, staying at about 8/10 of a second. He's still doing that much of the previous entire race, and Andrew Whitehead has been able to make up for that earlier error and is near enough back involved in the fight as well. So we've got a couple of battles brewing towards the end of this race 1 here at Goodwood. It is a moment time we'll be getting ready for some more battles in the reverse grid race, but race 1 is what we're focusing on at the moment, and it is the battle for the lead, which has we've been teased with for the past few laps now. That gap building up just a little bit actually. Maybe we're starting to see Colin's push show its effect on the tyres, and maybe starting to see him struggle just a little bit. But someone who is flying at the moment is Alan Matthews. With just over 5 minutes to go in this race, we're now starting to see the medium tyres show their true hand. His best lap of the race so far then. He's on a low fuel load at the moment obviously, and the tyres still have a bit of life left in him. 1:14.4 for Alan Matthews. That matches Colin Keneath's best earlier in the race and is beating his current pace at the moment. So we may see Alan Matthews start to get ever closer to Colin Keneath. Who knows if those two up in front can slow each other down with a bit of a battle. We could see Alan Matthews in contention for another position as well. He's looking very comfortable though at the moment. George Brook-Battersby behind and sat on the podium with some medium compound tyres. There are worse positions to be in, but they're behind the wheel of a very competitive Alfa Romeo in the sunny British countryside, that is for sure. It won't be too long actually until we see some more action like this at Goodwood. It's only a few months to go until we have the proper Festival of Speed, of course. We've just enjoyed the members' meetings there, but something's happened here. I believe it's just a time glitch. Yes, it always happens at St Mary's on this track mod. But something else is happening here, and it is it is Andrew Whitehead rather getting the move done on Willingliss. Will Willingliss be able to fight it back? It's not like he will be able to. Looks like there's quite a bit of understeer dialed in front of that car. Maybe the tyres starting to give up now. The soft compound tyres on Willinglis' car. No match for the mediums on Andrew Whitehead's then. So I think the medium tyre maybe the one to go for in race 2, unless it's a little bit of a chaotic start. Mike Hilton and Guy Swarbrick also battling it out at this stage in the race. It really is the end of the race where all of the battles start to form up once again. And it looks to be that this time around it's a little bit more secure for Mike Hilton, as Colin Keith has dropped right far back really from John Cole. That is what's happened there, but maybe just one small error heading through to something like St Mary's. Maybe those soft compound tyres start to struggle on Colin Keith's car. You'd expect them to be struggling for John Cole as well, and I think they are. 115.8 on the previous lap, 117 for Colin Keith as well. So the soft tyres looking like the worst pair of boots to be on at the moment. Alan Matthews bringing that gap down to now about 9 seconds as he has some lap traffic to deal with. As it looks like Andrew Brammer's had a few difficulties there. Collision with the environment according to system at 70 miles an hour. That has pretty much annihilated the front end of his car, but he is able to carry on by the looks of things just a little bit further back than he would like, I am sure. That promotes Andrew Whitehead up into P5 now, so a very good recovery drive for Andrew Whitehead. P10 at one point in this race is on the board for some very nice points. Elsewhere it is still Guy Swarbrick who leads the AM running. His previous best at 116.5, currently in the 119s on the soft compound tyre as well. So, not that I'm a strategist, not that I'm in the back of the car, but if I had to elect for a tyre in race 2, I think that's probably more of a reflection on my appetite for tyres than it is for my driving style or my ability, because the only thing big out of those three is my appetite for tyres. I mean, one of the reasons why I struggle in endurance events in sim racing, and it's also one of the reasons why I've got to fork out quite a lot of money for some new boots on the which has eaten some Toyo proxies in the past 10,000 miles, shall we say. They are very much due replacement. Anyway, enough about my car, which is now mended. So fear not, Greg. I know, obviously, I've had a few Mito-related reliability complaints on stream recently, but they are all mended now, and the car is running very nicely indeed. As we see a personal best from Mike Hilton on that lap, a 115.5 in the soft compound tyre actually, so looking like he is kept a little bit behind really, but he's extremely late. I don't think so, because that was Guy Swarbrick for most of this race and has the position on now 2 seconds as well. Someone who doesn't have the position is Colin Keith, Colin Keith not able to bring that fight to John Cole towards the end of this race, and that is exactly what John Cole needed at this stage in the championship, just to try and build up that gap as in front. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of understeer on Colin Keith's car there, which is exactly what you want at a relatively high speed circuit like Goodwood. We've got just under 2 minutes to go on the timing on the clock then, with another lap on top of that, and it is still John Cole who leads by about 5 seconds now, looking quite comfortable out in front then. In fact, now we have all drivers kind of occupying their own part of the circuit. I've found somewhere where they feel comfortable, and there aren't too many on-track battles at the moment. Racing action has finally calmed down just a little bit in race 1 before it gets all hectic, all chaotic, and action-packed once again in race 2 in just a few moments' time. But he has done a very nice job of controlling the race, and 18 laps of the Goodwood circuit, just a couple more to go now. That gap standing at about 5 seconds at the moment, and the pace looking fairly consistent for John Cole at this stage in the race, about a second clear of Colin Keith per lap at the moment. And it doesn't look like he's had too many difficulties at all in this race, topping the speed traps as well. It could be a bit of a grand slam for him in the race, of course, not getting that all important pole position on qualifying, but he's shown he doesn't really need it, as John Cole. Really bringing the fight to Colin Keith in this championship, then it could go on quite far into this year's running, or the first half of this year's running rather. But there is a bit of a battle hotting up between Mike Hilton and John Baker. What has happened there? I think Paul Melbourne stopped on track for whatever reason. Maybe a bit of lag. And that collected John Baker. And Mike Hilton was able to carry on. But what a shame for John Baker. That took a substantial impact by the looks of things, and that rather put a bit of a dampener on his race. So sorry for that, John Baker. You can't be helped sometimes, and that promotion and race leader Guy Strawberry up into P9 now. With pretty much no competition elsewhere on circuit, so he can be congratulating himself on a very well executed race. It was a couple of lap time, although I'm not sure he'll be focusing on that. He'll be focusing on race 2 coming up, which we're only time as mentioned. First big race by some fairly cracking action in the first couple of laps. As Colin Keneath is actually closing up that gap to John Cole out in front, but I think it's too little too late unless we see some substantial car issues or I don't know, major mishaps from John Cole. It looks to be that he is on for a very nice finish here indeed. It will really help his championship charge, as he's a double-digit points clear of Colin Keneath already, but that will build even more with the additional 7 points that he's going to get from this first race here at Goodwood. Back onto the throttle then for the Levant straight, and he comes across the line in just a few moments' time, having toppled Colin Keneath, who dominated the qualifying session for so long. He was starting to get ever closer, was John Cole. It wasn't quite there ready yet. He hadn't quite sorted it out in qualifying, but that didn't matter because heading into race 1, it is John Cole who's controlled the race, heading through the chicane for the final time in race 1, back onto the throttle for one final flourish here at Goodwood. It is John Cole who crosses the line to take the race 1 victory. Congratulations, John, for a very well executed race. And commiseration, Colin Keneath, you put up a very formidable chance, but unfortunately it wasn't quite enough at the end. P2. And congratulations to Alan Matthews. I imagine a mixture of some brilliant pace and a very well played tyre strategy there put you on the podium. P3 for Alan Matthews, George Buckbastry P4, Andrew Whitehead, a very good recovery drive indeed to finish P5. Will Inglis will come across the line. P6 and commiseration to Andrew Brammer, battling it out with Will Inglis for so long in this race. An issue a few laps ago forced him further down the order. Finishes P7 in just a few moments' time. It will be Mike Hilton coming across the line. P8 Guy Swarbrick, P9 Steve Knight, P10 John Baker, P11 in the pits Rosie Hodgson, P12 as well. Now will we see the all-important victory donut in just a few moments' time? I will find out in a second as we watch Andrew Brammer coming across the line then to take over P7. Points on the board, all important points on the board for all of these drivers. Mike Hilton coming across the line then in P8. Guy Swarbrick takes the AM race victory, coming home P9 on track, but extends his championship lead in the AM running even further. Steve Knight coming home P10 as well. So congratulations to all racers in that race. Some excellent pace on display, and some interesting dynamics going on at the end of the race. Maybe starting to see the medium tyre work a little bit better later on, and some battles that didn't quite come to fruition at the end. I'm sure they were waiting or wishing rather that race was just a little bit longer, but it doesn't matter though, because the racing action carries on in just a moment's time. The reverse grid race coming up in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
minute to go then until go time. A little bit more comfortable margin than what we had in race 1 for the stream, and we are all lined up on the grid ready to go. Well, not all of us yet, guys. Fabric just joining there. I fancy a bit of a Reeve special, I'm sure, to try and enjoy it as late as possible, as we have not too many changes in the running in terms of tyre compounds, apart from a very important one indeed, and a very, I imagine, kind of cathartic in a way tyre compound change. It is Colin Keneally now running the medium tyre, so he's going to give that charge later on in the race a bit of a go, I imagine. Maybe he's hoping to try and keep his lap times a little bit lower as he tries to push his way through the order in this reverse grid race. It is Whitehead who sits on pole in the front row. Andrew Ramber P2, Alan Matthews P3, Andrew Whitehead P4, George Brookbaxby P5, John Cole P6, Colin Keneally P7, Rose Watson P8, Douglas P9. We have 6 red lights on the gantry, and we'll be getting going in just a moment's time, and we are away. Whitehead getting a very good getaway. John Baker a little slot line, and that actually caused a bit of a blockage for Whitehead. It is Andrew Whitehead who leads on the off then. As we head into turn 1, George Brookbaxby has the upper hand on Will into the braking zone there, but Will going around the outside, able to get the move done. It is Andrew Whitehead who still leads at the moment. Then John Baker up into P2 after all that. Whitehead into P3, squeezed a little bit by John Baker as we head through the right-hander into Ford Water there, and George Brookbaxby in P4. Whitehead still keeping that second position, and Alan Matthews in the mix. All of a sudden going round down the inside into St Mary's there, getting the move done there. Very brave move to get the move done there this early on in the race. It was a contact between John Cole and George Brookbaxby. George Brookbaxby very lucky to get out of the wall there, and what he does is John Cole up into P5, and he's made some very nice progress indeed. Meanwhile, Cognitive down in P8. Not quite the electric start that he needed in this reverse grid race. Let's see what he can do on those medium compound tyres then, as we have within half a second of Andrew Whitehead, Will Inglis putting that charge on as we head down onto the Levant straight through Woodford now. Into the chicane to complete this first lap. John Cole up into P4, thinking about getting a move done into the chicane. I don't think so. That would be very brave indeed. As we have John Baker with the knob stickers on the back of his car, doing a very nice job, has some very nice pace underneath him, up into P3. I don't remember for how long ago John Cole is saying putting the pressure on from behind there as he goes up the inside, makes room just about for his 156 GTAm. They are side by side now as they head into Ford Water. I think it's going to be John Cole who comes out on top here as he dodges his way through the order up into P3 onto the podium then for John Cole. This has been the start from heaven from him really, as he tries to extend his points lead in this championship, tries to take away as many points as possible from us within the P3 then in this race. Whitehead keeping Andrew Whitehead on this though. These who have broken away from practice a little bit in this race so far. The gap standing at about 3/10 of a second as they head down onto the Levant straight in just a moment's time there, and we're on it now, of course, heading up into the Woodcut corner in just a second. There's only about 10 separating the two. I think they might have actually made contact briefly there as we head into the right-hander. Will Inglis going a little bit too late on the brakes, outbraking himself a little bit, having to dive back onto the track there, losing out quite a lot of time as a result of that. That's exactly what we did. Challenge for the lead of this race. There's been some fairly substantial contact between George Brookbaxby and John Baker by the looks of things. That has spat George right back. John Baker losing out of position or two by the looks of things. That has promoted Colin Keneally up into P5. And Matthews getting past as well. So Colin Keneally now starting to make that charge back to try and catch up to John Cole. He's about 5 seconds behind, but with 22 minutes in this race, it's certainly doable. The gap is certainly manageable, especially if there's a bit more time like needed later on in the race. Andrew Whitehead still leading then after a bit of a dream start for him, obviously a little bit higher up in the order in this reverse grid round compared to race 1, but still has done a very good job of keeping the nose clean, controlling the race at the moment then, with about a second and a half of the car behind. The car behind is certainly under pressure. He's under pressure from John Cole as John Cole tries to climb his way through the order to try and defend this championship fight that is going on. Down towards the chicane, and it is still John Cole in P3, but for how long? Back onto the throttle for the start, finish straight. Their gap building up just a little bit more actually, as we see Colin Keneally using his
favourite tactic of riding over the curbs there through the final corner. John Cole going the fastest in this race so far. Then we'll have to watch that battle as it progresses in just a moment's time. But we're focusing on the battle now between Colin Knief and Alan Matthews. That gap only at about a tenth or two. As Colin Knief is desperately trying to find a way past Alan Matthews, but Alan Matthews is defending, or is he defending, or is he trying to find a way past Guy Strawbrick? I think he's trying to find a way past Guy Strawbrick, but that has been very helpful in Alan Matthews' defence there. Positioning of Guy Strawbrick's car has forbidden Colin Knief away past, pretty much has forbidden him from getting past there. As we see, John Cole has now got the move done on Will Inglis. Looks like Will Inglis misjudged it slightly heading into St Mary's and has dropped back as a result of it now by about a second and a half already. So that is not what Will Inglis needed at this stage of the race. That's freed up John Cole, and that will be bad news for Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead leading this race and has been for the past couple of laps, for the past 3 laps in fact, and that is what he didn't want to see there, as John Cole is already progressing higher up, progressing closer to Andrew Whitehead in just a moment's time. The gap at about 1.7 seconds then. In terms of best lap, it was John Cole who comes out on top by about 4 tenths in terms of current pace. It's going to be a second between the two, playing into John Cole's hands rather. Speaking of playing into Colin Knief's hands though, the end of that lap looked fairly competitive for Colin Knief as he tries to get ever closer to Alan Matthews. He's actually dropped back overall compared to where he was moments ago, obviously losing out a little bit at the start of the previous lap, but he's now about a second behind, less than a second behind even, and is hoping to catch up on 5. Further down the order then it is John Baker, currently in P9. Had a bit of a race to get in race 1. He's hoping to make amends for that in this race. About half a second behind Rosie Houghton. Rosie Houghton doing a very nice job at the moment in P8. But for how long? Because John Baker is running those medium compound tyres, which will start to show their strength later on in this race, as we saw in race 1. But will he even need their strength later on? It looks like he may have the move done earlier on in the race, but very well defended from Rosie there as she gets back onto the throttle, heading down the Levant straight now, and is putting on a bit of a defence here. Obviously trying to break the toe ever so slightly, but for how long can she keep him behind? How long can she keep him at bay? As we've got the break to do coming up in just a second. He's positioning the car to try and get the move done down the inside by the looks of things, but I think he's going to be too far back. Thinking about it there, certainly putting on a bit of an aggressive stance in his 156 GTA there, and Alan Matthews actually setting purple sector 2, responded to by Colin Knief's purple sector 3, so this battle looks like it could go on for quite a while between these two drivers. We've seen battles between the two before, and Alan Matthews certainly knows how to navigate a British track in a touring car here, so Colin Knief does have to work it out for him at this stage. We've got just under 20 minutes to go in this race, and it looks like the leaders are also pushing each other as well in terms of personal best lap times. John Cole's previous best was his personal best, or John Cole's previous lap rather was his personal best. There by about half a second he has the advantage on Andrew Whitehead up in front, but it is the battle between Alan Matthews and Colin Knief we are focusing on at the moment. These two oh so close on track, have been for so long now. Colin Knief desperate to try and find a way past, but I don't think it's going to happen here. The Levant straight is just too much of a decent straight to get a safe move done. You got the kink in the middle of the straight there, which really narrows the track down even more, heading through Woodcote now, and it looks like Alan Matthews has been able to defend well enough to keep him at bay for just that little bit longer. As we head into the chicane there, John Cole, something's gone wrong for John Cole there, heading through a chicane. I don't know if he's collided with the wall, but for whatever reason, as has Andrew Whitehead, the two leaders in the race, I don't know if they came together, have dropped right down back down the order. It is now Will Inglis in P1 at the moment, and all of a sudden we have a four-way battle for the lead in this race. I'm blowing on the microphone, I apologise for that, but what has happened? This race is absolutely just turned on its head. Will Inglis then leading this race from Colin Knief. Alan Matthews trying to find a way past Colin Knief there, because in all of this, Colin Knief has been able to overtake Alan Matthews out of nowhere. Colin Knief now up into P2, defending against Alan Matthews. What a shame for Andrew Whitehead. Andrew Whitehead now down in P10. This has been an absolute disaster for him. He will be kicking himself, I'm sure, whatever happened there. I'm not sure if it was an overtake attempt into the chicane. I don't think so. That would seem fairly extreme. But whatever it was, what a disaster. What a shame to see that battle for the lead of the race come to a bit of a premature round. It is now, though, Will Inglis leading this race, only about 2 tenths clear of Colin Knief. Colin Knief still only about 3 tenths clear of Alan Matthews, and Alan Matthews only about 5 tenths of a second clear of John Cole. We've got a four-way battle for the lead going on here, ladies and gentlemen, as we head through the Levant straight, heading through Woodcote now. Those four following each other like it's NASCAR, heading into the chicane there, as we see Alan Matthews dropping back just a little bit more now as we see the drivers desperate to get the run onto the start-finish straight there, riding over the curve, back onto the throttle, and we start another lap with Willingliss still in the lead. But for how long? Willingliss running those soft compound tyres. He has Colin Keith and Alan Matthews on the medium compound tyres behind. We're about the halfway stage in this race in a few minutes time, and it could be quite an exciting battle developing here, folks, so don't go anywhere. John Cole then still P4 at the moment, dropping back just a little bit more there, but it is Willingliss who now has the defensive drive of his life to put on. He wants to keep the lead of this race. He has two very quick cars indeed behind him in terms of best lap pace. It is Colin Keith there, but Colin Keith has just been spat off at the St Mary's corner there. I'm not sure what happened. He's now all of a sudden down in P4. John Cole back on the podium there, and it has promoted Alan Matthews into P2. All of a sudden it's now Alan Matthews challenging Willingliss for the lead of this race, but Willingliss is just looking a little bit more comfortable now. Willingliss now about a second clear of those three cars behind, and what has happened here is that a timing glitch. I think it's a timing glitch because that's put Colin Keith up in the lead for a brief moment there, but I wouldn't be certain if that hadn't happened with all that is going on in the middle stage in this race so far. Willingliss still leads then heading into the chicane. Alan Matthews in P2 have broken away a little bit from John Cole and Colin Keith. The battle that we saw in race 1 for the lead of the race is ongoing once again, only this time it is for a spot on the podium. It still matters just as much though. That points deficit that Colin Keith has to John Cole could be closed up if he's able to find a way past John Cole and onto the podium, but it doesn't look like it's happened so far. Of course, John Cole running that soft compound tyre, so now is really where we might see John Cole starting to struggle. It looks like it could be a little bit more uncomfortable for John Cole all of a sudden as we start to see the pace in these tyres start to go away in about the next 5 or 6 minutes. So that will be one to watch out for. With a very quick Colin Keith behind. Willingliss then, it looked a little bit dicey for him at one point, now about 1.1 seconds, still by no means secure. It's by no means secure for Alan Matthews either is P2. John Cole trying to find a way past, going around the outside potentially, has the inside on the exit. I don't know how that sets it up for the Levant straight, which we're on now. What's happened is he's going to stay right in the toe, going to stay right in the slipstream, and going to potentially try and set himself up for a move heading into Woodcut. John Cole went purple in second round at 28.7 there. John Cole is absolutely flying, trying to keep Colin Keith at bay while trying to build a little bit of breathing space between him and John Cole in the form of Alan Matthews. Just build that little bit of buffer, all-important buffer there that he didn't have in race 1, which he now might be able to enjoy in race 2. Running over the curve then is Alan Matthews, back onto the start-finish straight once again. The gap between John Cole and Colin Keith only about 0.4 of a second, as it has been for the past couple of laps now. That was actually such a hard hit on the curve for Colin Keith rather. All my drivers muddled. They are just so close together that it actually registered as a bit of an impact for Colin Keith that time round, as it looks to be that John Baker is struggling further down the road. I think he's losing out a little bit of time there. Yes, I think he is looking quite slow heading through that part of the circuit there, but someone who isn't is John Cole. Alan Matthews heading up towards St Mary's now has got John Cole and Colin Keith for a bit of company. There is a bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment by the looks of things. John Cole looking for a move round the outside heading into the Levant corner. Will he get it done? I don't think so. And what that has done, that nearly compromised him there, that nearly put Colin Keith down the inside, nearly got him where he wanted him. It wasn't to be though, unfortunately, for Colin, and it looks to be that the order is going to stay where it is at the moment there. But is it? John Cole still looking very competitive down the Levant straight, maybe can get a move done around the outside into Woodcut, will run risk of going a little bit wide on the exit. I don't think he's going to though. I think he's placed the car just right there heading through the chicane. No move attempts there, please. There it won't go well. Just ask Andrew Whitehead and John Cole, although John Cole seems to have come out of that a little bit better, that is for sure. Andrew Whitehead still running P10 at the moment. What a shame to see his race come to a bit of an end like that, as we have John Cole now under pressure from Colin Keith, has dropped back from Alan Matthews a little bit, rides over the curve very aggressively indeed. A little bit of rally cross from John Cole there, runs a little bit wide on the exit as well, and is now side by side with Colin Keith. Colin Keith looks as if he's carrying a little bit more momentum, looks like he's got the better line as well as we head into forward water, but has had to drop back, very well defended by John Cole. Head into St Mary's in just a moment's time there, where it's gone so wrong for so many drivers throughout our running of Goodwood this year, and it hasn't been the case for these two this time around. They have dropped back from Alan Matthews though, which would be a little bit of blessed relief for Alan Matthews, but I don't think he can rest on his laurels too much, because the top 4 running within 2.5 seconds at this stage of the race is excellent to see. Willingliss then about 0.6 up the road from Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews has been able to refocus with P3 and P4 battling it out. He's been able to refocus and set his sights on Willingliss up in front. as Williams maybe starting to struggle a little bit on those soft compound tyres, maybe starting to see the first signs of that. Alan Matthews obviously on those medium compound tyres, and running a little bit wide on the exit. It looks like Colin Keith's only a more extreme example of it as we head down the start-finish straight, and there is Andrew Brammer in the distance. All this battling has actually allowed Andrew Brammer to catch right back up there. He's running fastest out of the top 5 runners at the moment, and could be on for a bit of involvement in the battle. Could we see him on the podium in a few laps' time? Who knows? There, as we have the top 5 separated by about, covered by about 4 seconds. Very impressive to see as we're going to go near enough. 3 wide. John Cole trying to get the move done on Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews there having to be kind of squoze out as we head into St Mary's there. That compromises him and may put him into the jaws of Colin Keith. It is John Cole now up into P2, only about a second behind Will Inglis, the race leader. Then, if you can get the move done before Colin Keith, so to get past Alan Matthews, that will play into his hands amazingly well, especially considering the different tyre compound between him and Colin Keith, as they could be up for a battle for the lead in a few laps' time. As we head around the chicane for one last time on this lap, it is still winning this leading John Cole in P2, Alan Matthews in P3, and Colin Keith in P4 is exactly what John Cole wanted to see, I'm sure of that. Track temperature here quite high actually, 37 degrees track temperature in the blistering British sun, which won't do too many favours for the soft compound runners, that is for sure. The soft compound runners currently leading this race, so they're still doing their job at this stage in the race, but for how long will that continue? John Cole trying to threaten Will Inglis' lead of this race. Let's see how long that continues. Obviously flames on the overall for John Cole as we head into sector 2. Those gaps between these 4 cars just starting to build up ever so slightly now. I think they've all been on such an intense push. The cars are starting to scream a little bit in protest. Elsewhere in the run, we have George Brook battling it out with Mike Hilton as they head through St Mary's. In terms of previous pace, it is going to Mike Hilton. Actually, Mike Hilton currently running in the 16.3s. George Brook in the 16.6s. But in terms of best lap, George Brook has the upper hand there, and he's thinking about a move down the Levant straight. And speaking of thinking about a move, it is also John Cole thinking about a move as they head into the chicane in just a moment's time. Hopefully, as I've already mentioned, not trying to get moved on there. They are side by side heading down the Levant straight. George Brook just about edging out in front. He's going to have to get the move secured though on the braking zone into the woodcut corner there, and I think he has done so there by the looks of things. John Cole then keeping winning list honest as we head through sector 1, as is Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews is right back in the mix of something. Colin Keith actually dropping off a little bit there. Wasn't quite expecting to see that as Alan Matthews is thinking about a move up the inside there. It was going to be too brave, too far back from there. And they all stay in single file formation heading through St Mary's back down towards the Levant corner, there. We do actually have Colin Keith setting a purple in second 1 this time, so maybe he's on a bit more of a charge. Now, speaking of on a charge, though, it is John Cole heading onto the Levant straight. He's going to run out wider, near enough side by side with Will Inglis. Is it close enough? I'm not quite sure. He's going to maybe think about getting that move done on the braking. Got the kink in the straight there. He's edged out in front under braking. It looks like it's going to be going to Will Inglis, though. Will Inglis very late on the brakes. Excellent move coming in from the outside the corner there, but has carried a bit too much speed into the corner there, and there's contact between the two heading through the chicane. There's big contact, in fact, for all 3 involved, including Alan Matthews there, losing out big time. Alan Matthews down into P4. Colin Keith still in P3 at the moment, but I'm not sure for how long. He's carried so much more momentum through the corner. Will Inglis in P2, being challenged by Colin Keith, as is John Cole. Taking back the lead of the race from John Cole is Will Inglis. Will Inglis still in P1 at the moment then, and Colin Keith side by side with John Cole up into P2 now. This has been a bit of a disaster at the end of that lap for John Cole, losing in position to Colin Keith. Colin Keith now may be able to put a charge on to Will Inglis. Will Inglis on the soft, Colin Keith on the mediums. So maybe this race is a bit of a turn in fortunes for Colin Keith at this late stage.
as we head through the St Mary's corner now. Andrew Brammer now getting involved as well. Willingless running wide. That's pretty much gifted the lead of this race to Colin Keneath. Willingless down into P2 now, and Alan Matthews fancies his chances as well, carrying so much more speed through the van corner. They are 3 wide running down onto the straight now. John Cole wants to get involved, near enough 4 wide. In fact, Andrew Brammer now looking to get involved as well, near enough 5 cars involved in the battle for the lead of this race. I'm sure we're going to see another switchback at some point in this race as we head down through Woodcote in a moment's time. Alan Matthews has the inside line, is too far back there. Colin Keneath running P2 at the moment, back onto the throttle as we head through Woodcote and down towards the chicane. Hopefully no contact between cars this time round. I think we've all made it through cleanly, just about. We have the Alan Matthews running very wide on the exit indeed. Colin Keneath or John Cole able to get the position done on Alan Matthews, as it is Andrew Brammer. Andrew Brammer now up into P4 all of a sudden. Andrew Brammer also running those medium compound tyres. Willingless still leads them somehow after that major collision just a lap ago. Colin Keneath has been promoted from P3, P4 all the way up into P2 all of a sudden, and John Cole has lost the position to his main championship rival. Andrew Brammer has stayed cool, calm and collected, has been able to get the position done in all of this battling, but I think Alan Matthews wants that position back and is certainly setting himself up for it, but he's been going to be gifted by Andrew Brammer. Andrew Brammer running very high, slamming on the brakes there, I think, to try and avoid a collision. Just about does by the looks of things, and what a shame to see his charge for P4, potentially charge for the podium as well, come to a bit of an end like that. And in all of this, Colin Keneath been able to overtake Willingless to head onto the Levant straight now. Colin Keneath now leading this race all of a sudden, and it is now Willingless running in P2. Willingless is now the only one who can put a charge on Colin Keneath, but Colin Keneath has been electric past a couple of laps from him. This is exactly what he needed, running those medium compound tyres. He is now leading, controlling the race. He's got a bit of battling to do yet. He wants to try and keep Willingless at bay, but he can use Willingless and John Cole, those 2 soft tyre runners, as a bit of a stopgap, as a bit of a buffer zone to keep Alan Matthews running wide there, to keep him at bay as well. This is exactly what he needed. This race has turned on its head for Colin Keneath there, when it looked to be he wasn't quite on the pace there. All of a sudden he found himself leading the race and potentially in a position to control it with just under 5 minutes to go. And just a bit of an update for you as well on the situation with Paul Millman earlier in that race. A shame for him, really. A couple of technical issues with his rig, meaning that he is unable to carry on the game, effectively crashing for him. What a shame to see his running coming to an end like that, and he very courteously decided to leave so as not cause any more issues there, as we have some issues for John Cole though in the form of Alan Matthews. John Cole in P3 at the moment, but for how long? Because Alan Matthews on the medium compound tyres looks to have lit those tyres up really, and he's trying to find a way past as we head down the Levant straight now, with George Battersby in the distance as well. The top 4 covered by 3.2 seconds then. This battle going on for so long. They make contact, they bounce wheels off each other. John Cole keeping Alan Matthews at bay, but for how long, as we head through Woodcote and through the chicane once again. Chicane, I imagine, providing a little bit of stress for some of the drivers at this point in the weekend, where it's gone wrong on a number of occasions for a couple of drivers now. Back down the start for the straight there with John Cole still in P3, still with that spot on the podium. So it will be a bit not exactly what he needed in terms of his championship fight with Colin in P1 and him in P3, but he can still take away some good points from this weekend, or can he? Can Alan Matthews start to really provide a bit of an issue for John Cole at this stage, as they are making contact once again, heading through to Ford Water. This position really does mean a lot for John Cole. I think he's pretty much set his sights on keeping P3, running those soft compound tyres as well. He's been able to work out for him as he heads through some areas, keeping Alan Matthews at bay with just over 2 minutes to go in this race. We haven't mentioned it too much at the moment, but it is Rosie Hodson who leads the AM running at the moment, doing a very nice job as well. She made some good progress at the start of the race and has been able to control the AM race ever since, without too much competition. We might see Steve Knight start to close up that gap as we enter the final couple of minutes. About a second quicker on pace at the moment compared to Rosie is Steve, but with about 3 or 4 laps to go, that could get spiced up actually later on, so we'll keep our eyes on that, as we have Alan Matthews still trying to put the pressure on John Cole, out in the lead at the moment, but is it too little too late really? There's only about 6 tenths of a second between them, but we know how long they can battle this close together, especially there, as Andrew Brammer at one point was fighting out for a spot on the podium.
all of a sudden now down in P6, fighting to keep P6 away from Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton has been doing some very nice running indeed in this race, has been a bit of a lone ranger really, has enjoyed some battles with George Buckbasby, John Baker, and is now going to enjoy some battles with with Andrew Brammer as well. But Andrew Brammer running a little bit wide on the exit there, has lost a position to him. And speaking of losing positions, it is John Cole who's lost a position to Alan Matthews. John Cole now off the podium. Been a bit of a disaster this phase of the race for John Cole really. When he was fighting for the lead, he now finds himself off the podium, and this does not bode well for his championship fight. It's still obviously carrying on with a comfortable gap, but that gap is looking a little bit less comfortable now with Colin clawing back that point advantage that John Cole found himself in race 1. Colin then controlling this race out in front on those medium tyres at the moment. Those medium tyres providing him with some fairly nice comfort then as he rides over the curb, kicking up a bit of dust in true Colin Keneath style. Those medium compound tyres should bring him to the end of this race very comfortably indeed, as we have a bit of a battle going on between George Buckbasby and John Cole in a few moments time, potentially about a second and a half between the two, both on the soft compound of tyre, pretty much matching each other in terms of pace at the moment. As we see Rosie Hodgson and Steve Knight also, the gap between them is starting to shrink, but I think it may be too little too late for that battle to develop. There, as Alan Matthews has kept winning this honest, but unfortunately from a little bit too far back. It is 156 GTAe, the gap is about 1.2, 1.1 seconds as we head through St Mary's, where it's gone for so long, as mentioned already, for so many drivers, including the likes of Andrew Brammer, including the likes of Andrew Whitehead in race 1. There, as we have that gap between John Cole and George Buckbasby has shrunk, certainly has shrunk as we head through the Levant corner now. John Cole, I think, is starting to really struggle on those soft compound tyres. George Buckbasby might have kept them in a bit more of a comfortable state throughout this race. He's also on the soft, but looks to have a bit more pace compared to John at this stage in the race. As we head down the Levant straight now, John Cole may all of a sudden be dropping back to P5. This will be a bit of a race to forget for him. If this is the case, as we head into Woodcote in a moment's time. And John Cole bouncing over the curbs then as we start the final lap of this race. We'll be joining Conclave for this moment of time, but I want to focus on the battle going on between not only George Buckbasby and John Cole, but also between Willinglis and Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews is right on the rear bumper of Willinglis, going the long way round through the first corner. He's a little bit too far back to get that move done, but certainly putting that pressure on. We'll join Colin Keneath in a moment's time to watch him come across the line, about 7 seconds clear of the rest of the runners. Medium tyres really working well there. See, I imagine he probably listening. I imagine he probably thought to check on my opinions on the race strategy, because of course I knew it was going to happen. I wasn't at all guessing there. But speaking of knowing it was going to happen, I think the inevitable has happened. George Buckbasby has got the move done on John Cole as we head into St Mary's there and up into P4 for George Buckbasby. So a nice drive from George there, and commiserations to John Cole for that one. Willinglis still in P2 at the moment, then about 4 tenths separating the two as they head onto the Levant straight. And coming to the end of the Levant straight now, it is Colin Keneath, our race leader. He had to work from it for the first couple of laps. He was a little bit too far back, I thought, to get the gap that he needed to John Cole to shrink really. But he heads through the chicane now, having controlled the end of this race, having fought very hard, kept those medium tyres in check, weaves to come across the line to take the race 2 victory and carry on this championship fight as we come to the awards, the second half of this season's run. And congratulations, Colin Keneath, for a very well executed race there. Very well played, Colin. As Willinglis comes home P2 with Alan Matthews in P3. George Buckbasby coming home P4. Commiserations to John Cole. What could have been for John, and he will be bringing this championship fight further into the season. I'm sure he would like losing out in race 2. Mike Hilton then coming home P6. Andrew Brammer P6. P7 rather, and P8 will be all that Andrew Whitehead can take away from this evening's weekend in terms of race 2. What a shame to see him leading the race at one point and it all come undone for him there. Commiserations to Andrew for that one. John Baker coming home P9 with Rosie Hodgson taking home the AM race victory. Congratulations, Rosie, for what has been a very quiet race, but sometimes that's all you need, really, and you'll be taking home the full whack of points there. Steve Knight coming home P12 and Guy Swarbrick P12, or Steve Knight P11 and Guy Swarbrick P12 rather. So congratulations, Colin, for what has been a bit of a roller coaster weekend for you, really. Taking home the pole trophy, losing out in race 1 and being able to claw it back in race 2. That is just goes to show just how close the action is between some of these drivers there, and just how good the battling and how good the racing is here in this GTA Championship. And speaking of the GTA Championship, it's coming to an end for this week. Then we'll catch you in just a couple of weeks' time for the next round. Thank you very much for watching this evening.